So, folks, we have to talk about the fact that apparently the United States is now running things in Venezuela. That might come as a shock to some people who went to sleep last night and who woke up today and haven't been paying that much attention to the news, but that is apparently the case. Let's just talk about it briefly. I'm going to lay out kind of like a timeline of events to last night and then talk about what happened last night and what has happened since and where things might go from there. Okay? So, part one. Where did this all start? Well, let's, we can obviously go back in time and talk about, a decade ago. We're going to just start with this year. Donald Trump came into power and he started talking about drugs and the danger of fentanyl and the scourge of fentanyl. And he declared gangs like Tren de Aragua terrorist organizations. And because they have now been designated terrorist organizations, he had some kind of legal framework to just summarily execute civilians from other nations, and he used that power. And specifically, up to now, we have blown up a large number of civilian boats in both the Atlantic and the Pacific, with the Trump administration, without evidence, saying that they are drug traffickers from Venezuela and they're Tren de Aragua gang members, trafficking fentanyl that kills 100 million people in the United States. Like that, he just hyperbolizes the claims all the time. That doesn't sound very legal. It's not. It is not, in fact, legal to just use semantics to then say, oh, we have the right to just murder whoever we want. And we have now killed over 115 people on these boats. And from there, it also escalated that more recently, within like the last month or so, Donald Trump ordered a blockade on Venezuela. And then it kind of came to light that, well, like technically he can't order a blockade because we're not at war with Venezuela. But what he did do is order oil tankers that are designated as like flagged by the U.S. Department, by the U.S. Department of War as like potentially supporting terrorist regimes, to seize those oil tankers. And well, I mean, that's not. I've been away from stream for a bit. There we go. He's just straight up saying we're gonna keep that oil. Now, this is from like a week ago, week and a half ago. And why specifically Tren de Aragua? Because Tren de Aragua is like a bad gang and does have large operations. Though it is not a terrorist organization, it is like a criminal organization, and there's a difference. Now, we're just going to keep the Venezuelan oil seized on these tankers. That's what Donald Trump is telling the press, and that's what he is talking about. Now, shortly after that, about a week after the headline you just saw came out, Donald Trump's CIA began acting on some orders that he gave them, which essentially greenlit them to carry out operations within Venezuela, not just along the coastline, but within Venezuela. And so CNN was able to verify that the CIA carried out a drone strike on like a port warehouse within Venezuela. This went relatively unremarked upon even within Venezuelan press. However, this wound up being, I guess, an opening salvo. A lot of people were kind of interpreting this as, oh, well, this is Donald Trump beating his chest. He's like, they're picking relatively low priority targets because they want to put pressure on the Maduro regime without actually, taking high risk, potentially catastrophic action within Venezuela, right? And then additional investigations have been ongoing about those suspected drug boats that the Trump administration has been blowing up, saying that they're either full of fentanyl or cocaine. And the New York Times posted this in-depth investigation. Grim evidence of Trump's airstrikes washes ashore on a Colombian peninsula. And basically, what this investigation did, to kind of summarize it for you, they went through the debris from these boats being blown up in order to look for evidence that they were in fact drug boats. And, well, 2 days later, on the same shore, a scorched 30-foot long boat itself would wash up. Then 2 mangled bodies, then charred jerry cans, life jackets, and dozens of packets that were observed by the New York Times and were similar to others that have been found after anti-narcotics operations in the region. Most packets were empty, though traces of a substance that looked and smelled like marijuana were found in the lining of a few. So, they were blowing up boats that seemingly were shipping marijuana. Again, obviously, we have known for this entire time that the motive behind these bombings is not to keep America safe, and it's not to combat the drug trade, because literally a month ago, Donald Trump pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was convicted as a drug trafficker, who talked about wanting to shove cocaine up the noses of Americans, and was running it from his office in Honduras. And he pardoned him. That man is free now. That man went on the Patrick Bet-David show to talk about how, everything was horribly unfair to him except for Donald Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump pardoned the founder of the online drug trafficking company Silk Road. Yeah, Donald Trump just lowered the scheduling of marijuana. And anyway, all of this really just shows the administration's argument that this is about drug trafficking is full of bullshit. And I want you to keep that in mind, because what has grown increasingly apparent in the hours since what transpired last night is that the Trump administration is relying entirely on their drug claims to justify their actions. And we all know it's bullshit. Legally justify their actions, anyway. Let's take a look at just, in case you don't know what happened last night, I'm going to play this just unedited. This is a post from Donald Trump on Truth Social with footage of what happened last night. So, in case you're confused, that is footage taken by Venezuelans on the ground as their capital city was bombed last night by US military. And apparently Donald Trump ordered this bombing to take place originally on Christmas, but it got delayed by anti-ISIS action in Nigeria. and then delayed by bad weather to last night. Did civilians die? I don't know at this point. There are still a lot of things that are coming to light. Chances are pretty good that, yeah. And obviously they pick Fortunate Son because these people are morons. You know, the conservatives hear Fortunate Son and they think it's a song about how great the United States is because there are lines about red, white, and blue in the opening lyrics of the song. It's an anti-war song. It is a song specifically positioned to be against what is happening in that video. It is this is like taking like one of the most anti-war, anti-Vietnam songs of all time and just completely not understanding it. It is, I mean, like, the media illiteracy is a feature of conservatism. The deliberate, like, dumbing down of the American is a feature to conservatives. It's not a bug. They're not upset about it. They love that they can put this music with this horrendous action. Because it also means that, guess what? If you aren't using your brain to think about, like, the lyrics of that song, you're certainly not using your brain to think about, like, the geopolitics of what's happening in that video. They're relying on, like, dumbing down Americans to monkey brain and thinking, oh yes, America, rah rah, explosions, cool. Like, that's it. That is what they are seeking to instill as a fundamental American value. And it is infuriating to a degree that I cannot even begin to state, because this enables so much bullshit.
Did you exercise today? The fascists did. Why haven't you?
Uncle Simric, thank you for being a member. Juliana, thank you for subscribing as well. But understand what they're doing here is both stupid and deliberate. I love that Fortunate Son is literally talking about people like Trump who dodged the draft because he's rich. Yeah. And now you might be like, okay, so we're at war with Venezuela? Not exactly. I guess. Oddly enough. Yet. So, what was the purpose of the operation last night? Well, they bombed a bunch of different locations, primarily one of the major military bases in Caracas. Which I want to remind you guys, Caracas is a metropolitan area of about 5 million people. And they also bombed some port facilities elsewhere in the country. It was a wide-ranging attack. They also seemed to take out like radio communications and did damage to, I believe, one of their airports. And you might be like, okay, was this just the opening salvo? What is happening here? Well, one of the ideas that I floated last night is that it could be what's called a decapitation strike, which is essentially where they send in special forces or heavily bomb an area in order to kill leadership, both military and civilian leadership. And that appeared to be potentially somewhat of the goal. There is some indication from, like, the locations that were bombed that different ministers of Venezuela were targeted, like the Minister of Defense, for example. His home was bombed. And what appears to have happened is we noted last night that there was footage of Chinook helicopters, which indicates the presence of special forces, right? Because Chinook helicopters are transports. And, well, this happened. The United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. Details to follow. There will be a news conference today at 11 a.m. at Mar-a-Lago. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Yeah, and we'll get to that press conference. Don't you guys worry. We'll get there. But last night, our special forces apparently got Nicolas Maduro. Like, he is in our custody. And he is currently en route to New York City to apparently stand trial for drug crimes. We kidnapped the head of another nation. Yeah, they adult napped him. Why the wife too? I mean, Benry, excellent question. I have heard no details as to why. Perhaps they intend to charge her as well. My instinct at the moment is because we're the bad guys and they want to threaten his wife in order to get him to confess. That is my gut reaction here. And yeah, they're gonna use her as leverage. Can Mamdani free him? No. Yeah, decapitation is what Russia tried to do to Ukraine. Exactly, awesome, Stella. And we'll see. They took his wife because she was also implicated in a lot of corrupt shit. Yeah, but the issue here is that there are a lot of people implicated in a lot of corrupt shit who don't get kidnapped by US special forces. Like, it's not because, like, I'm sorry, you can't just, like, kidnap people from other countries because they're implicated in some shit. That's not how that works, actually. Like, there are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes who we don't send special forces after to, like, bring to New York City. I'm guessing the only reason why they took his wife is because she was there, too. There were other people there! What, you think they were just chilling alone in a room together? Are you nuts? He's the fucking leader of the country. She's there because we want her there. It's not a whoopsie daisy, we also got his wife. God. So, let's get to how have some folks been reacting to this.
We've got a lot.
Here is Republican Representative Marionette Miller Meeks on Fox News earlier today.
We've got a lot to do. We don't want to have troops on the ground. Iowans don't want that. Americans don't want that. We do not want nation building. This is not what's going to occur. We've got enough problems to clear up from the Biden administration. So we have work that we're going to do. We're going to.
We do not want boots on the ground. We do not want nation building. That's not what we want to have happen here. Meanwhile, the Chiron, Donald Trump, we're not afraid of boots on the ground. Like, there's a lot of chaos in Congress today. And I say that because apparently members of Congress were not briefed that this action was going to take place until it was actually underway. They did not know what was going to happen. They did not know that the purpose of this operation was to try and kidnap Maduro. They didn't know. And so when, like, our members of, like, the intelligence committees were actually briefed on this operation, the Trump administration lied to them. Has Schumer wagged his finger yet? You know, Eddie, that is an excellent question. Here is a statement from Chuck Schumer, you know, who I'm sure is sitting in his office right now.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
Okay, Leader Schumer's statement following President Trump's military actions against Venezuela. Today, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer released the following statement. Okay. Let me be clear, Nicolas Maduro is an illegitimate dictator, but launching military action without congressional authorization and without a credible plan for what comes next is reckless. The administration has assured me 3 separate times that it was not pursuing regime change or taking military action in Venezuela. Clearly, they are not being straight with Americans. The idea that Trump plans to now run Venezuela should strike fear in the hearts of all Americans, and we'll get to that particular point in a moment. The American people have seen this before and paid the devastating price. The administration must brief Congress immediately on its objectives and its plan to prevent a humanitarian and geopolitical disaster that plunges us into another endless war, or one that trades one corrupt dictator for another. To distract from skyrocketing costs Americans face and the historic cover-up of the Epstein files, Donald Trump is attempting to throw Americans into more international chaos and uncertainty. I want to be clear, I don't think that this is a distraction. I think this is one of the goals of the Trump administration coming to fruition. This isn't like hit the panic button. We gotta do an operation in Venezuela. Like, no, he's been planning this for months. And one of the things that I really want to talk about is apparently Schumer just a handful of minutes ago did a call with the press. So let me just cover some of the notes as covered by Eric Michael Garcia, who is Washington bureau chief for The Independent. According to Eric Michael Garcia, Schumer said, "I've been talking with so many members of my caucus today. Everybody is very, very just totally troubled." And just Chuck, the president of the United States just did a unilateral act of war against another country. Congress is the only body that is constitutionally able to do that. He's wiping his ass with the Constitution, Chuck. Schumer then stated that he wants to know how many troops are on the ground now, American troops, how many troops do they expect to have a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. Apparently he has not been briefed on any of the information. But one thing I do want to say is that apparently this has lit a bit of a fire underneath Congress for when they come back into session on Monday. Because keep in mind, folks, Congress is not in session right now. They aren't meeting. So all of this is happening as politicians are away from Washington, D.C., doing other shit. Now, what they're going to do on Monday is apparently the Senate is going to introduce their war powers resolution, which only needs to pass by a simple majority. So they need 51 votes in the Senate. And what that means is because this is being co-sponsored by Rand Paul, they need 3 Republicans to vote for it. And they might actually have those 3 votes in folks like Josh Hawley and some of the other moderate Republicans who usually go along with Trump. So this is where we're at. We're gonna have to see how that plays out on Monday, but it's very frustrating. And again, Schumer just went on a rant about how Donald Trump wants to distract from the Epstein files. And again, Donald Trump does want to distract from the Epstein files, but that's not the main purpose of what's happening here. This is fascism, right? Of course it's fascism. Like, I haven't been memeing when I call this administration fascist. I haven't been memeing when I call, like, the ICE Gestapo. Like, they are one and the same. They are secret police that are amongst us trying to trick people into going to detention. This is fascism. This is fascism and colonial empire in crumbling, in deterioration. And let's take a look at some of the other statements that have been coming out. Here is Hakeem Jeffries' statement. Nicolas Maduro is a criminal and authoritarian dictator who's oppressed the people of Venezuela for years. He is not the legitimate head of government. Undoubtedly, the rule of law and democracy have broken down in Venezuela, and the people of that country deserve better. Donald Trump has the constitutional responsibility to follow the law and protect democratic norms in the United States. That is what putting America first requires. Hakeem Jeffries is one of the dumbest motherfuckers. Look, it's Hakeem Jeffries is now an America First Democrat. Hey guys, Hakeem Jeffries is taking the same slogan and the same American isolationist bullshit that white nationalists have been popularizing for a goddamn century. Isn't he cool and brave in doing so? No. The Trump administration has not sought congressional authorization or the use of military force and has failed to properly notify Congress in advance of the operation in Venezuela. The promotion of security and stability in a region requires more than just military force, as we painfully discovered in Iraq and Afghanistan. Far too many questions remain unanswered, including with respect to whether further military actions are planned. First, how many American troops remain on the ground in Venezuela? Second, does America... Dude, did he have ChatGPT write this? Second, what does America is going to run Venezuela until a judicious transition take place mean? If you're gonna use this type of language in your statement that is in text to the press, put that in quotes. Use proper punctuation, man. Third, were these military strikes about seizing foreign oil to benefit friends of the Trump administration? Fourth, why did President Donald Trump pardon the former Honduran president, a narco-trafficker convicted in an American court of law, but is willing to take us to war in Venezuela in connection with similar allegations? Pursuant to the Constitution, the framers gave Congress the sole power to declare war as the branch of government closest to the American people. The House and Senate must be briefed immediately, and compelling evidence to explain and justify the unauthorized use of military force should be presented forthwith. Again, like, if your main complaint is that Congress wasn't told beforehand, no, that's not the main problem here. The main problem is the president unilaterally. I mean, guys, if we were a smaller country, if we had a smaller military, we would just be at war with Venezuela. If China came over and abducted Donald Trump and we're like, oh no, don't worry guys, we're just gonna put him on trial in China for his crimes against the world. Okay, maybe this is a bad example. If China came over and abducted President Bernie Sanders and put him on trial for his crimes against the world, we would immediately go to war. We would immediately, there's not a situation in which we wouldn't have missiles in the air and fighters scrambled within 30 minutes. Right? This is an act of war. If not for the amount of money we spend on our military, it would already be open war. There would already be retaliations. And so understand that this is not just some oh well, if he had just told us first, it would be fine, which is what some Democrats are trying to put out there. It's insane. And Nancy Pelosi has also put out a statement. Venezuela is ruled by an illegitimate regime, but the Trump administration has not made the case that an urgent threat to America's national security existed to justify the use of U.S. military force. President Trump has made no secret of his intentions to effectively abolish the Congress, and that pattern continues today with his flagrant disregard for the Article 1 war powers of Congress, which is essential to our constitutional system of checks and balances. Which, guys, far be it from me to say that Nancy Pelosi is doing a good job, but the bar is literally in hell when it comes to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. And Nancy Pelosi saying up front, this is an existential threat to the United States of America, because if we allow the president of the United States to have powers that are given specifically to Congress, it effectively means our Constitution is worthless, doesn't matter, and we have an authoritarian dictator. I fucking hate Nancy Pelosi, but she cleared the bare minimum bar. She's on her way out. She's not running for re-election, and she's still clearing the bar that Schumer and Jeffries are sending to hell. If the president grants his actions on the basis of drug trafficking charges, it is entirely hypocritical in light of his recent pardon of former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was responsible for bringing more than 400 tons of cocaine in the United States in order to, quote, shove the drugs right up the noses of the gringos, unquote. The administration says Maduro will be tried for drug trafficking in a U.S. court, but Hernandez was convicted of the same crimes by an American jury, and Trump pardoned him. Congress must be fully and immediately briefed on the strikes and regime change in Venezuela, the objectives and extent of this operation, and how the administration intends to prevent further regional fallout. Is gonna be pretty interesting. We also have the Washington Post editorial board just going full in on the destruction of the American Constitution. And I want to remind everyone that you can no longer trust what the Washington Post puts out. And honestly, like, it is bizarre to me that they maintain the subheader "Democracy Dies in Darkness" as they celebrate the President of the United States pissing on and shitting on the very foundation of the Republic. Justice has been done in Venezuela by, the president unilaterally usurping the powers of Congress. Yeah, they're just like, oh man, it's so cool. It's so fucking cool that, like, the special forces went in there. Look at all of our cool shit. And here they go. The ideal outcome would be for Maria Corina Machado, a Nobel Peace Prize winner and leader of the Venezuelan opposition, to take power. Her Freedom Manifesto, influenced heavily by America's Constitution, which the Washington Post editorial board clearly doesn't give a shit about, is the best outline for Venezuela's future. The details would be tricky, but she would easily win a free and fair election. I am not convinced of that whatsoever. Citation needed on that front. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, no, this is all just pure billionaire propaganda bought and paid for by Jeff Bezos. That is just what this is. And if you're wondering, what motivation would Jeff Bezos have to just glaze this unconstitutional action from Donald Trump? What motivation might he have with, I don't know, some kind of business proposition in Venezuela, perhaps? That's what we call foreshadowing. Let's keep going on here. Because we also have, we've heard from the Democrats who are team, put your head down and die, and maybe, like, if your enemy walks away, you can, like, scuttle away to live another day. The possum Dems. Let's take a look here at Ruben Gallego on Fox News. And I know this guy has got his problems, but, like, those problems coming to light, specifically his comments about, like, women and trans people, etc., reprehensible. And I think he's trying to I think he's trying to compensate, in ingratiating himself with what we'll call team fight. It's the faction of the Democrats that actually want to fight the Trump administration.
Maduro. What are your expectations when you get briefings from senior Trump administration officials in the coming days?
Well, they're just going to lie. Let's be clear. We actually had briefings before this, and it was, in those briefings, Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hexeth both said that this is not a precursor to us doing regime change. No, everything you're seeing from you is not an opportunity to build towards war versus Venezuela. I said it was actually that. And lo and behold, this is what happened. Next, they're going to say most likely that, no, we're not going to try to occupy Venezuela, when the American people have been very clear. They do not want to be occupiers again. We do not want to be the world police. It is not the intent of the American public, again, to be another forever war. It's time for us to understand where our place is in the world, and it's not for us to be the world police.
But to be fair to
Maduro.
What are your...
I mean, like, they're just going to lie to us. That's a member of Congress saying, yeah, we can't believe what the Trump administration tells us because they lie to us all the time. They've lied to us routinely up to this point, and they're going to continue to lie to us from here on out. Now, let's take a look here. Here is Seth Moulton talking about the same topic as Ruben Gallego, this time on CNN.
When we had briefings on Venezuela, we asked, are you going to invade the country? We were told no. Do you plan to put troops on the ground in Venezuela? We were told no. Do you intend regime change in Venezuela? We were told no. So in a sense, we have been briefed. We've just been completely lied to.
Well, as you describe it, those would be obviously point blank lies.
When we
I mean, if this is the case, then there's no way that we're going to know what the Trump administration is actually doing. And if if the presidency is lying, if the executive branch is just straight up lying to the courts and lying to Congress, the only thing that makes sense is impeachment. Impeach, convict, remove. That is what needs to happen. Like, this is not manipulating the truth. This is not massaging the truth. This is just straight up lying. Now, here is Senator Ed Markey's statement on what happened here.
Trump cannot manage the American economy.
That is loud.
And now he says that he's going to run Venezuela and its oil infrastructure. Well, we've seen this movie before by invading Venezuela and kidnapping.
Yeah, look, the only I'm not trying to glaze Seth Moulton or glaze Ruben Gallego. They're both transphobic. They're both not good. But even they're both on what we'll call team fight. The team amongst the Democrats that doesn't want to just lay down and stick their heads in the sand. They actually want to get up there and throw some punches. You know, they want to do something to curtail the authoritarianism in this administration. And that's going to be a bigger tent than just people we 100% ideologically agree with. Wait, are they? Yeah, Seth Moulton is the guy who at the beginning of the Trump administration was talking about how he didn't want his little girl to play sports against burly boys. You know, like, dude is awful. And like, it spurred an entire conversation, and the pushback seemed to put some Democrats back in line and push them away from some of the like, we should just throw trans people under the bus positions that they were having. And Ruben Gallego had like leaked messages that had him talking about how like Democrats don't let women be hot anymore or something. It's really bizarre. And whatever, geez, that's a deal breaker. Sorry. I don't give a fuck if it's a deal breaker. I'm not asking you to like him. I'm just telling you who's fighting this administration. Jesus.
President Maduro, Trump has broken Venezuela. And now he claims that he is going to fix it. But now we know what this was all about all along: regime change and oil. We've seen what happens when we destabilize countries on behalf of American fossil fuel CEOs. They profit, our service members get hurt or die, and regions collapse. How do we prevent a civil war from erupting as happened in Iraq? Trump has started another endless war without even consulting Congress. This is reckless. This is illegal. And we cannot let it stand.
Like, it is nice to see Team Fight is, you know, putting out some pretty strong statements. Here is Mark Kelly and his statement here. The President of the United States just overthrew a foreign ruler and explained to the American people that this is about taking control of the oil reserves of a foreign nation. He said that the U.S. will run the country until a proper transition can take place, and went right into how U.S. oil companies will benefit from this takeover. He doesn't understand the risks and costs involved with these poorly thought out decisions that don't make Americans any safer today than they were yesterday. Nicolas Maduro is a brutal, illegitimate dictator who deserves to face justice. I want the people of Venezuela to be free to choose their own future. But if we learned anything from the Iraq War, it's that dropping bombs or toppling a leader doesn't guarantee democracy, stability, or make Americans safer. More often, it leads to chaos or drags the U.S. into a war and lengthy occupation. I don't trust that this administration has a plan, timeline, or price tag for what comes next. Over the past year, Trump's foreign policy has often been reckless, chaotic, self-serving, and unconstitutional. Congress should vote this week to reassert its authority on behalf of the American people before he oversteps again. I want to recognize the professionalism and skill of the American service members involved in this operation. While I don't agree with the administration's justification for this, I'm thankful that no service members were killed or seriously injured, which is pretty wild. But at the same time, like, we just have to check out his announcement here. I've seen bits and pieces of it so far, and it's one of the most insane things I've ever seen. He's muted at the moment.
We appreciate you being here. Late last night and early today, At my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital.
One thing that is nice, I suppose, is that he is straight up just taking responsibility for this by saying, yeah, I did it. I gave the direction, which saves us some trouble, I suppose. But yeah, my man was up late last night, so he's tired. He's seepy tiredy.
Of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This.
My rear end. What are you talking about? Do you want to become the main character of stream today? Is that what we're doing? Amazing how the same people who tell me that rejecting a candidate with a Nazi tattoo is purity politics suddenly don't have the uncomfortable solidarity attitude towards already elected officials who hold bad positions. What are you fucking talking about? Who's telling you that here? Why are you doing this? I feel like I made my position pretty clear. It's a pragmatic one. And I'm just showing you guys who is coming out in favor of fighting this administration and saying that, hey, fighting this administration on this is good. Like, yes, what they're doing is good right now. Their transphobia is not good. It's not difficult to parse those two things. God damn it.
It was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American.
Okay, good. I do want to say I'm really upset today. I had other things I wanted to do with my day. It was not this. And I'm having trouble reading your tone, chatters. So I apologize to you, my rear end. And potentially apologize to other chatters because I am angry as fuck.
Military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones like the attack on Soleimani, the...
Jesus Christ, he is fallen apart. He can barely remember who he's talking about.
Attack on al-Baghdadi and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer, all perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve.
Oh, Marco Rubio's having a great time today.
What America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women.
Rendered perilous? I think he's trying. Guys, he's genuinely. My prediction yesterday for the year is that Donald Trump might pass away as a result of whatever medical conditions he has. This is really reaffirming my my prediction.
Of our military working with U.S. law enforcement successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off.
You posted video of this on your social media that shows the lights still on. We've all seen the videos. What are you talking about? Yeah, it was dark in the dead of night. No shit, Sherlock.
Due to a certain expertise that we have, it was dark and it was deadly.
Due to a certain expertise we have, it was dark. We blocked out the sun for that one, boys.
But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, it's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight. with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in what's called a ready position, but they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have, and you see that.
Here's some cash for a drink, a smoke, a giant hot fudge sundae, or whatever guilty pleasure will take the edge off tonight. Profound heart emoji.
S Productions Inc., thank you for the $25 super chat, and I will indeed use that to take some of the edge off, because this fucking sucks.
Even if you just look at the boats, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people.
Again, I want to really reiterate here that of the evidence that has been gathered so far by press, those boats carry marijuana. There's been no evidence that these boats are carrying cocaine or fentanyl, and even if they were carrying either of those things, evidence from some of the boats that we have been able to verify indicate that they weren't even bound for the United States. So, with each boat we destroy, we save 25,000 lives. No, that's bullshit. It's just utter horse shit.
We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela.
No, fentanyl isn't manufactured in Venezuela. It's manufactured in Mexico and other countries around the world. And I really want to hammer this home. Fentanyl is also widely available in every major American hospital. Every major one, every rural hospital has fentanyl in it because it's used by doctors and approved by the FDA. Just in case people are confused about this, we ship a huge amount of fentanyl into this country legally for medical use. No, they literally use it all the time. Exactly, Awesome Stella. This whole argument that they're blowing it up. It's saving so many lives. It's not gonna stop. It's not gonna stop fentanyl from coming into the country because it's coming into the country legally. These goddamn ding-dongs.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to.
So yeah, that's there's Donald Trump announcing that we are going to run Venezuela. Now, what exactly that means is unclear at this time. Does it mean we're going to annex Venezuela? Does it mean we're setting up a puppet state in Venezuela? Like, are we setting up elections? What is what is happening here?
Here, money. Haven't been as tuned in lately. Pumpkin Pinochet might pass before he can see consequences. But the SOBS that helped him won't be as lucky.
God, I hope that we see consequences one day. Inshallah. Brutus Magnuson, thank you for the $20 super chat. Patrick Lucas, thank you for the gifted membership. I very much appreciate the support, guys. Stuff like this is hard to cover, so I appreciate your patience as well. Also, Spot Dogs, thank you for being a member for 9 months.
Trump and his admin have to be held to justice before he croaks. So sick of these vile excuses for humans.
Indeed. Trump's voice might be AI. I mean, it's not. That's just his voice at this point. Venezuela has a vice president. That might be the case, but I don't know that they're thinking. Like, the thing that we have to deal with here is that if we came in and abducted their president, like, are they going to be able to keep their vice president? Like, what exactly are the mechanisms that the United States is going to use to run Venezuela? Because as far as I can tell, the one mechanism we have is a gigantic aircraft carrier that can just bomb anywhere in the country at any time for any reason. And it's effectively just holding a gun to the head of the Venezuelan government to say, do what we say or else. I don't think that is a long-term... I don't think that works long-term at all. Yeah, is Trump going to personally own Venezuela? What is this going to look like? Because I guarantee you... I can't guarantee. I almost guarantee you they're not just going to be like, yes, the vice president of Venezuela is now in charge. I don't think that's how it's going to go. We're Cobra Commander now. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about that.
Run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious.
Yeah, I mean, what Magnus Pectori is pointing out here is exactly what the Trump administration is probably also thinking. That, like, the vice president of Venezuela is close to Maduro, so that can't be allowed to stand. We must dissolve the entire government of Venezuela. And I don't know that that's going to go well at all, because they don't got a plan to do that. Like, the Trump administration very clearly is running by the seat of its pants here, because if it wasn't, they would just be straight up talking about their plan to run it. And I got spoilers for you guys. Donald Trump is not about to give an in-depth and detailed plan about how the United States is going to run Venezuela.
Transition. And it has to be judicious, because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela.
Yeah, we'll get to Maria Corina Machado, Magnus Pectori. I think you're not going to like where this is going.
Venezuela. And that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper...
Yeah, also, if you think that Maria Corina Machado is going to be running anything after this guy is just talking multiple times, we're going to run it, we're going to run it, we're going to run it. They're not going to let her run shit. They're not going to let Maria Corina run a goddamn motor car.
I can't imagine the stress of dealing with this all the time. You are so valued and appreciated, and I hope you can rest after doing this.
Gray-eyed V, thank you very much for the $5 pound or £5. I do appreciate it.
Transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place.
The main problem with the Venezuelan government is that they weren't pumping enough oil. Yes, we finally get to the real problem of Venezuela.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil.
Hey, remember what I said yesterday, that the problem that the Trump administration has with Nicolas Maduro isn't that Maduro wasn't willing to negotiate with American companies? Because keep in mind, Venezuela had a deal with one American oil company. ExxonMobil had like exclusive rights to like pump oil and export it to the United States from Venezuela. And like Maduro said he was open to more investment. He was open to making deals with more oil companies. And they removed him anyway, because the issue isn't, the government's willingness to work with oil companies. The issue is that the oil companies don't want to pay the taxes to the Venezuelan government that they would be required to under Maduro. It's why they want to get a different, set of people in charge, so they don't have to pay as much money to said government, so that social services can be cut even more to the bone than they were previously, and the oil companies can roll in their Scrooge McDuck wealth until they die of old age.
Infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually...
I mean, what he's saying here is essentially, we're prepared to just kill even more members of your government or capture them if we need to. And we'll do it. We'll do it in a heartbeat. Don't think for a second we won't. We'll pop you. We'll shoot. We will shoot you in the head. That's what they're doing here. It's like the fucking insane terrorist ploy that you see in every goddamn movie.
Assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have...
Can you offer an extremely quick answer whether or not Maduro is a dictator? I've heard the people say he is, and predictions that others will say he is. Yes, Maduro is like a dictator. He is, or at the very least, undemocratically elected. There's a lot of questions about the more recent election and how that turned out. But the point being, we do deals with dictatorships all the time. Saudi Arabia is a dictatorship. It's a literal fucking kingdom run by a guy who has journalists chopped up, literally hacksawed to death after torturing them on his specific orders. And we do deals with those guys. We're not abducting Mohammed bin Salman and putting him on trial for his crimes against U.S. journalists. We're not doing that because, again, the issue is not that the United States has an issue with dictators or an issue with how things are being done. The issue was with the percentage, the profit margin of the oil companies that do business in Venezuela. Yeah, no, Mohammed bin Salman gets invited to the White House and Donald Trump fist bumps him and talks about how cool he is and how big his dick is.
I have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United...
Yeah, depraved ambiance, I would say that Maduro's kind of a soft dictator in the same way that Viktor Orban is a soft dictator. Does that make sense? They will still hold elections and they'll wait it just enough that they can always win, but there will still be an opposition party, unlike places like North Korea where it's just straight up a dictatorship.
United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe.
It's dictatorship with plausible deniability, essentially.
And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living...
Sorry.
...involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extreme.
Well, yes, Tren de Aragua is a real gang. That's not... The argument has never been Tren de Aragua doesn't exist. The argument is Tren de Aragua is not a terrorist organization, which is true. They are not a terrorist organization. They are a drug cartel.
Extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him.
This, to the extent that, like, allegations against Maduro may or may not be true, I don't know how substantiated it is that Maduro was, like, conspiring to ship drugs to America. I don't know how hands-on Maduro was with the drug trade, but something tells me that he wasn't personally ordering drugs shipped to America. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. I haven't looked into the evidence on this case yet, but okay.
Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship. They'll be heading to, ultimately, New York, and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court.
Why New York? New York is where they try a lot of, like, financial crimes. You know, like, New York is where they tried, like, Sam Bankman-Fried. They try a lot of financial crimes in, I think, the Southern District of New York.
Court of law, and I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's
like, I'm sorry, but they just pardoned the president of Honduras, who specifically was the head of a drug trafficking operation that trafficked over 400 tons of cocaine into the United States. And he was convicted in America by a jury, and Donald Trump pardoned that man. Like, the idea that Donald Trump is just doing this because he cares about people killed by drugs, it's completely incongruent with the actual actions of the regime.
It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete, and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat.
Jesus Christ, he's out of it.
But we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6, 7 months. We used to have two, on average, 2 a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're walking their daughters. They're walking their children, their wives. They walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National.
What the fuck is he talking about? Who gives a shit? You're talking about us taking over running Venezuela, and then you just wander over to talk about the National Guard deployments. Like, just what the fuck are you doing?
National Guard, I want to thank our military, and I want to thank law enforcement. Been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana. And we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing, and we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no.
Also, I'm just looking over the indictment that got dropped. One of the charges against Maduro is that he has machine guns, which is... I do want to know, how on earth is that a charge? He's the leader of another country. Yeah, he has machine guns. Yeah, one of the indictment charges is because he has machine guns. And of all of the charges he's facing, the machine gun charges are the ones with the largest prison sentence time. It's not the drugs. The drugs are like 10 to 20. The machine gun is like 30 years. Yeah, the charges are narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. What the fuck? Yeah, Robbins Aviary, my guess is that they're gonna try and get him to confess to all of it when he goes to court. My guess is that their plan is to threaten him, threaten his wife, threaten his son, unless he confesses and goes to prison. And that, I mean, otherwise, I don't think if this went to trial, it would hold up. At least not all of the charges, anyway.
Working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster, and the mayor was a disaster, but it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there.
Especially with how shitty the DOJ lawyers are at this point. Like, genuinely, what could happen here is like a situation where they fucking lose the trial against Maduro.
When they need us, we'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay.
They also seem to be trying to indict him for all cocaine traffic through Venezuela.
45 with Maduro.
Is this Sake Tanuki? Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs.
Doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have.
Yeah, they don't figure it out until they're called to the stand.
Have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C.
Okay, I'm going to skip this because I don't think that this is terribly important.
Contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, in our dominant, but these are the terrorists and criminals, extremely sovereign and focused to them.
He's given his speech. I want us to get the questions here. Let's go over to Pete.
The best of our country.
Because we don't need to hear like him beat his chest about how great it is to put American troops in cities.
What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry, and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men. And I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve, the most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't.
Apparently, the attack did kill Venezuelan civilians and members of the military, though no specific number has been released by the Venezuelan government. So that is the latest we know on the actual damage so far.
He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious.
Yeah, so deadly serious that he pardoned a guy who sent 400 tons of cocaine to the United States and was convicted on it.
About getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength.
It is America first to kidnap the leader of another country and put American lives in danger. That's America first, because then we get to steal all of their oil to enrich American companies? ? So America first is just America's wealthy first.
And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026, and under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our chairman, Chairman Raisin Kane, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
God, you skipped it a bit, but Trump brought up the fucking Monroe Doctrine. I mean, he does just want to rebuild American empire. That is one of the things that makes him hard. It's one of the things that makes every single man in this administration hard. It's the only thing they care about.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President. And
oil that was stolen from us. What the fuck is he talking about? Genuinely, it's as far as I can tell, they've been making this claim that Venezuela stole American oil, and as far as I can tell, that's just not true. That's just a lie.
Good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the
God, he's so small that he's underneath the microphone.
United States, and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas.
Now, you might have noticed what he said right there is that in conjunction with the U.S. Department of Justice. And that's going to be very important going forward, because the entire legal justification for what they're doing here is that because Nicolas Maduro was indicted in the United States on these drug charges, the U.S. essentially law enforcement was sent to Venezuela to grab Maduro, and that the use of U.S. military was not that the U.S. military didn't grab Maduro. It was the U.S. law enforcement that grabbed Maduro. And the U.S. military was just there to protect U.S. law enforcement as they did their jobs. And if you think that that sounds really stupid and really legally shaky, even from a layman's perspective, you would be correct. It is one of the wildest assertions I've ever heard to justify military intervention. And frankly, I'm not sure that it's going to hold up in court at all.
And Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd, and was the culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulous.
Oh God, he genuinely is falling asleep in the background. Even this guy is like looking at him like he's worried he's about to topple over.
Planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets, in early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was...
Yeah, keep in mind all of the posturing about, like, negotiating with Maduro, negotiating with Venezuela, any kind of peaceful resolution to all of this. They've been planning this for months. They were never just gonna let it sit.
Choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel so, as the president said, they could be brought to justice. And as the president said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud.
Isn't this what they did with Iran, where they pretended to negotiate then attack? How can anyone trust us after this unless we arrest and charge these people? That's they can't. Unless we hold this entire administration to account for this blatantly illegal abuse of their powers and blatantly unconstitutional actions, unless we hold them all to account, no nation will ever be able to trust us within our lifetimes. The word of an American will be tantamount to a lie for the rest of our lives unless we hold these people accountable.
Ceilings, but when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the president ordered the United States military.
I have the Black Ops report on Maduro's cats. Very important. Yeah, tuna and sprinkles, okay? Very key to the operation.
Military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr.
Is it unconstitutional to impeach an entire administration at once? No, actually.
Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water.
See, this is, again, what's going to be really important here. And you can see, like, Marco is just like, oh, God, please buy it. Please fucking buy it. Like, oh, yeah, including law enforcement officers. Law enforcement officers were there, everybody. Ha ha ha. So that makes it legal. Haha. Like, the crazy thing is, this basically just opens up U.S. military action anywhere at all on the planet. All you gotta do, folks, is, like, trump up some charges or get an indictment against someone in another country, and then you send U.S. law enforcement after them with the U.S. military to protect U.S. law enforcement. That's it. That is the legal argument in its entirety. And if that is allowed as a precedent, then there's literally nothing that Congress can do to curtail military incursions into other countries. This is why there needs to be a lawsuit immediately against this action.
As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective, and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit, but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home.
Needs to be held accountable too. Anyone who sides with this administration after this and the Epstein files is a monster.
I mean, that's true. But when I say we need to hold this administration accountable, I mean we need to, prosecute them. There needs to be actual legal consequences. I don't necessarily think we need to prosecute every MAGA voter, but every MAGA politician that is enabling this heinous abuse of power should absolutely be prosecuted.
And that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw.
I'm sorry, you cannot argue that while invading another country, you acted in self-defense. Fuck off. No, guys. We were look. Our guys were sure. We invaded another country and took their leader hostage, but anyone who has tried to fight us, well, we just acted in self-defense. You can't argue that. That's bullshit.
Out of Venezuela, the force successfully
is Trump asleep right now? He certainly seems like
it. And returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today...
Do they think this makes them look good? Yes.
...is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world.
But you don't have the right to shoot back at us, though. If we invade your country, it's again, if we invade, we can shoot you, but it's against the rules for you to shoot us.
I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled...
Yeah, T-Life, they kidnapped Maduro last night. They have him in custody. They're bringing him to New York to face charges.
With gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain...
Yeah, they also have his wife, and they also are apparent... It is unclear at this time whether or not they have his son. His son is also included in the indictment against him and his wife. So, yeah, I guess we'll see where this goes.
In the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests.
You sure Zoran can't do anything? Well, I'm guessing it's going to be on federal charges, not on, like, local municipal charges.
In the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
Yeah. We saved $50 million. How much did it cost to deploy all those naval ships and post them off the coast and then launch an operation with 150 different aircraft coordinating along with drones and put personnel, like thousands of personnel on the ground and in the boats? But we saved $50 million though.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one.
Nobody deserves it but us. Do you think Donald Trump is going to try and pay himself the goddamn reward money for Maduro? That's such an insane thing to even ask, but that comment really makes me start to wonder.
One thing, Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was
you and me, Marco, will split the 50 million. You know, I get 80%, you get 20%. Because you're little Marco Rubio.
Provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this.
Unless it's, the releasing of the Epstein files, the payment of his various contractors for building things, the promise to bring down prices, the idea that the economy is doing well, the except for all of the ones he doesn't keep his promises on. But, go on.
Process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks.
Yeah, replacing the Affordable Care
When I get there,
Act.
we're going to do this, we're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because
I don't know how they haven't figured this out. Maduro's been trying to negotiate with you clowns for months.
This feels like the Guaido rhetoric peddled by the CIA in the last election.
Yep.
You can cast doubts on the process without directly claiming Maduro was illegit.
Yep. Like, I do think that there is evidence from the most recent election that Maduro, may have rigged the system a little bit in his favor. I know that, for example, the election board declared him the winner without presenting any evidence for their findings. But all that being said, the nebulousness of that election outcome does not at all justify the actions of the United States over the past 24 hours.
This is the way it's going to play out, and I think people need to understand that this...
It also certainly doesn't justify the 100+ people killed by the United States via summary execution on the high seas.
This is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences, and, if he says he's serious about something, he means it.
Also, thank you for the
and this is something
subs.
that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States, and the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy.
He could have been living someplace else right now, very happily. Yeah, where could he have gone that you wouldn't have done this to him? If he was already indicted under the previous Trump administration, wouldn't that indictment still stand? Okay.
Boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think that the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody. But don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that,
what games were being played? Like, it's all so hollow. It's all, someone in chat said vice signaling. I think that's a good phrase for what this administration does. Like, it's all just hollow vice signaling.
I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Is that a message for Cuba, Mr. President? Mr. President,
Please. Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but that's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
So the question was, who is running Venezuela now? Like, who's in charge? And his response is, we're going to run it with a group. What group? Why don't, you don't have a name for, who's going to be in charge? You don't have a name for the group? It's just a group? And then he immediately goes into the vice president, perhaps? No, they're not going to let the vice president be in charge. And if he wanted to say, the duly elected vice president will be in charge, he didn't say that either. He said a group. And then he went right into talking about oil. I know, it's been the go-to meme for forever, but genuinely, it's for the oil companies. Yeah, the vagueness is disturbing, right? But then he goes into talk, we're going to pump more oil. We're going to send in the, U.S. oil companies, and they'll build infrastructure. And that's insane. With Iraq, we had the big lie, we have to do this because of, we have to do this because weapons of mass destruction. And then, it was only until 5-6 years later that people were like, wait a minute, there aren't any WMDs here, are there? This was all for oil. And the administration was like, yeah, you caught us. This is it's just naked. They didn't bother to even manufacture any consent for this. It's crazy.
Mr. President.
And I do want to know, what does he mean that, the people who left Venezuela will be taken care of? What does that mean? Obviously, I can think of they'll make it easier for people to return to Venezuela, but I don't think that's the connotation here. I think the connotation is some form of payment, some payment for their trouble, not just more deportations. I don't deny that there's probably a not insignificant motivation here to simply get rid of Venezuelans in the United States. Well, I don't know that he wants to deport Venezuelans who are here on TPS. I think he's looking for a way to do it without deporting them explicitly, but having some kind of if you go back, you'll get $10,000 or something. I don't know.
President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly.
Yeah. It could have gone very, very badly, which is why we'll put a lot more boots on the ground, because it will be so dangerous. I cannot stress enough how bad it will be if we try to militarily occupy Venezuela. Like, there are obviously going to be some people who fled, whose families fled Venezuela, who are probably going to be pretty happy today, right? That, Maduro's gone. He's, the United States is there. But there's also going to be a large number of people who grew up believing wholeheartedly that America is the great imperial Satan. And U.S. troops occupying the country is gonna have a guerrilla style resistance, the likes of which we haven't seen in some time. This has the potential to be Iraq 2.0.
Very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people.
Again, the preoccupation with it's going to make us a lot of money. These are long dead are the days of, oh yes, we're spreading democracy. Part of it is that they don't even have to do that anymore. The Trump administration doesn't even have to bother trying to portray what we're doing as a good thing, because there's so much captured media in the form of Fox News and the Washington Post that are willing to go out there and say, no, America will remake Venezuela's constitution in the image of our constitution, and that's good. Look at the democracy. Justice is winning. And there's so much consent being manufactured outside of this regime for the actions of the regime. It's why independent media is really important, guys. And I don't even know that I classify as that specifically, but support smaller independent journalist outlets, support, support the New Republic, support, your drop site news, support these different independent reporting outlets, because they're more important now than ever to tell you what's actually going on. And this isn't me doing a paid sponsorship thing. It's just genuinely from my heart, the importance of a free press that is motivated not by dollars, but by truth. Yeah, Mother Jones, ProPublica, Handbasket, all excellent as well. Because if we don't support them, they'll die and be replaced by whatever corporate ghouls Trump wants.
That we're taken advantage of.
Zateo,
take
Wired,
care of everybody. Yep. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it.
Support Riverboat Jack as well. Hey, I didn't say it, but you guys can support me too if you want to. You have the right.
They stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over
we built the whole industry there? Yeah, because we had a deal with their government to do that. We have an ongoing deal with the Venezuelan government through ExxonMobil right now.
With nothing, and we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
Yes, it's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
Would run Venezuela?
Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead. I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world.
What the fuck are you talking about, man? You ran our economy into the gutter, man.
We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimburse.
Yeah, by the way, if you think any of that money is going to average citizens in Venezuela, I've got a bridge to sell you. I've got 10 bridges to sell you. I've got as many bridges as you want to buy from me to sell you. An infinite supply of bridges. It's incredible how many bridges I have to sell to you. The people who are going to benefit from this are oil tycoons. And shareholders. That's it. Average people in Venezuela are not going to see profits from this.
For people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Rubio would be. You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He's just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So just what your message is about that.
Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And, yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Mr. President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in it.
Sure. We called members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was
bullshit. This wasn't the kind of operation you could do congressional notification on. You just had a guy on stage talking about how this was in the works for months. You just had a guy on stage talking about how you had been planning on this, observing his movements for months. You knew what pets he has, and what clothes he wears, and where he would go. But it was impossible. You had this plan for Christmas Day, and then you delayed it, and you delayed it, and you delayed it. Why couldn't you tell members of Congress who are authorized and you are required to inform? It's just bullshit. Every single word from these clowns is a lie or a manipulation. These people cannot be allowed to hold office.
A trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Plus, if I could add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result.
I mean, they're just bragging about blatantly flaunting their responsibilities to one of the co-equal branches of our government.
But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point. You know?
Oh, God, 1,000% Boy Meets Minnie. Like, this is going to be... Well, like, you know, we talk about, like, oh, the Cold War was a multipolar system. You know, we had Russia and the United States, you know, building up that friction, etc. We no longer live in that multipolar world. It's a unipolar world. We have one major superpower. It is the United States. And while China is ascendant, they have not quite reached the superpower status of the United States. And in that regard, what the United States empire does sets a precedent for what is allowed for other nations. And one of the questions that I saw early on was, if the United States can just go and kidnap the leader of a nation that they view as like illegitimate, does that not mean that like China can go and abduct or assassinate the leader of Taiwan? Does that not mean that like insert whatever nation building project as a regional or global phenomenon could take place? And Boy Meets Mini brings up Kashmir and Sri Lanka. Like, I just, it opens the door to a million awful shits to do the worst that they can. It's gonna be it's gonna be a free-for-all. A new age of rampant imperialism.
Oh, we had a lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming. We went there. But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
People to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know, the safe place is all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. People were wondering, did we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average, regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it. Go ahead, finish.
Going to be in the time being right now. Do you know his exact
Well,
whereabouts?
eventually, ultimately, in the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards.
Not with
Did
me.
that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's when we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. We're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. It can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country. Yeah.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil and drugs?
In terms of China and Russia, Russia when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it. In other words, we'll be selling oil, probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be.
I know I've just been sitting here stupefied, but it is absolutely insane.
You're my favorite political commentator / journalist, and community, Jack. Your gaming streams etc. too. I give support when I can. Love to you all, heart emoji, fire emoji.
I appreciate that, Patrick Lucas, especially on days like today. Thank you for being a member and for gifting another membership. Which law enforcement? We don't know what law enforcement was sent out with our military forces as of this moment. I do want to say it is frankly completely and utterly bizarre to be seeing the president of the United States just come right out and say, we did regime change in Venezuela because they weren't pumping enough oil, and acting as if the main problem with Venezuela was like outdated oil infrastructure and we just had to go in and fix it. Like, as if there wasn't any like other method of modernizing oil infrastructure. A DEA jacket was in the pick? Okay.
Be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Are you saying, Mr. President, are you saying that, Mr. President, are you saying that?
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of Venezuela?
That you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time. It was stolen from you. But you're going to have peace and you're going to have safety. You're going to have justice. You're going to have a country. You're going to have a real country. You're going to have potentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country. And they destroyed it. Remember I said that if we lose this election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. Had we lost the election, the 2024 election, we suffered so badly. When you look at the border from 2020, what they did, what Joe Biden administration did to our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we would be exactly where Venezuela was in terms. I used to say, if they win, we're going to be Venezuela on steroids, and that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military
troops to provide? They're going to be a team that's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave, who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro. And right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn in as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need. I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, she doesn't have a choice because what is effectively happening here is, diplomacy by gun. Like, we have a gigantic gun aimed at the capital of Venezuela, and if they don't do what we tell them to, they're gonna get shot. Essentially, like, we have the world's largest aircraft carrier sitting off their coast, and if they don't do what we say, well, that new president of Venezuela is gonna get killed. That's what he's saying, right?
We're gonna have this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, let it go to hell. If we just left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world going and invest billions.
Like, again, if anyone has ever heard the term banana republic, that's literally what this is. He's talking about turning Venezuela into a banana republic. Into essentially just a front for oil companies to do whatever the fuck they want with it. That's it. Full stop. The entire premise here is we went in, we removed their government, and now we run it, and if you don't run it the way we want, i.e. in the best interest of our oil companies, you're gone.
Billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay and some probably want to go back, yeah.
Again, the profits of the oil companies are not going to benefit the vast majority of people who live in Venezuela, and certainly not the people who currently live in the United States. I guess unless they are oil executives.
In the country, and were any of the detained Americans?
Well, right now they're very protected because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people of, and we let them know that you better not touch one of them.
Are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them, and they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago. Okay, wait, behind you, please.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability.
Man, so, okay. I'm so angry. I've just been so angry for like 24 hours. So the entire purpose of programs like USAID, for example, where we sent out tons and tons of money around the world in order to prevent people from starving to death, in order to get people the medical intervention they needed to live and thrive and survive. That was also money spent to stabilize different regions of the world to facilitate goodwill towards America. Because, hey, guess what? Generally, people who didn't starve to death because your country intervened to prevent their starvation, that produces a lot of goodwill, you know? And the cuts to USAID are going to result in over 10 million people dying. Mostly children, by the way. And it was cut because it was viewed as not necessary spending. But when the, fostering good neighbors argument is in service of, launching $100 billion into a military operation to do regime change, well, suddenly that's worthwhile. Saving, 10 million, 14 million, 15 million people by expending a minimal amount of money, that's just a bridge too far. But if you put it into things that can explode and kill people, well, now we're talking. It's so frustrating to hear him say, well, it's really America first to foster the stability of the United States and to get good neighbors, while he shits on and destroys the programs that actually do that. Aneurysm, yeah.
We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it. Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba is an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. So suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no
yeah, who would ever have a country run by incompetent, old, senile fools? Oh, God, the framing of this shot, this is cinema. Look at him. While Donald Trump just looms behind him. Oh my God. Dude. How can you do comedy about this? Like, it just is comedy. That's fucking wild. He's saying that with Donald Trump standing, like, just inches from him. It's crazy.
No economy, it's in total collapse. And by the way, they were, all of the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba that tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be...
Yes. The dastardly Cuban military always projecting their military might into Venezuela.
Concerned, at least a little bit.
Yeah, look, the United States is doing colonialism on Venezuela right now so that our oil companies can get even wealthier. But the real colonizers are Cuba. Okay.
Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned, it's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's a pre-existing.
The answer is yes. Yes.
Opposition leader Machado, and have you been in contact with her?
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Mr. President, on Monday...
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within, or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect to be the leader.
Is it possible...
Now, I know earlier in chat there was someone who was talking about how great Machado was going to be as the leader of Venezuela under the Trump regime. It's not going to be Machado.
Why do these two keep tag teaming? It's like Trump needs a cool down before he answers more questions.
Yeah, Donovan, he's sleepy, he's tiredy. Okay, like he can't do a full press conference by himself. Yeah, so the Venezuelan woman who won the Nobel Peace Prize, who was angling to be installed as the new leader of Venezuela, is not going to be the leader of Venezuela. That's just that they aren't going to do that. They don't think that's good, and they don't want her in charge. Now, I also think that there is a decent chance here that part of what's happening is related to the fact that, and by the way, even Fox News is trying to push Machado as like a potential successor here. She has the support of 70% of the country. And like the fact that Donald Trump just stepped in and was just like, nah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. That's interesting to me because I don't know who else they would put in. Like, he's talked about a group going in, and let me pull something up here. While I look for it, let's finish this up.
The U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years,
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial, so it's not going to cost us anything. We want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to...
Oh, so we're just going to loot the country. Cool. Cool.
It's going to be a very important... This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to be surrounded by safe, secure countries. And we also have to have energy. Very important. We have to have energy that's real energy, not where they're getting 4% and 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look. It was such a disaster. So what's going to happen with Venezuela, I think, over the next period of a year is going to be a great thing. And the people of Venezuela will be the biggest beneficiaries.
Now, one thing I do want to talk about here is that there is an article here from the Wall Street Journal from earlier today, talking about the finance industry eyeing investment opportunities. It has not even been 24 hours. It has not even been 24 hours, and they are already trying to send people there to take over the country. Some on Wall Street are already considering possible investment opportunities in Venezuela following the capture of Nicolas Maduro, according to Charles Myers, chairman of consulting firm Signum Global Advisors and a former head of investment advisory firm Evercore. Myers said in an interview he's planning a trip to Venezuela with top officials from top hedge funds and asset managers to determine whether there are investment prospects in the country under new leadership. The trip will feature about 20 officials from the finance, energy, and defense sectors, among others, Myers said. The tentative plan is for the group to travel to Venezuela in March and meet with the new government, including the new president, finance minister, energy minister, economy minister, head of the central bank, and the Caracas Stock Exchange. Myers didn't provide a list of individuals who are planning to travel to the country. He estimates that there will be between 500 billion and 750 billion in investment opportunities in the country for foreign investors over the next 5 years. Quote, there is a huge amount of interest in Venezuela reconstruction opportunities, and it will bounce back faster as it is in our hemisphere, and the new government will be predicated on welcoming foreign direct investment from day one. That's so interesting, isn't it? And part of me wonders, is this the group? Is this the group that they're talking about? Is Charles Myers' group here the group that is effectively going to run Venezuela? Because it's pretty bizarre to me that less than 1 day has passed and these hedge fund managers from several different disparate industries are all saying, yes, we've got a group of 20 of us who are ready to go. We've got an entire plan scheduled out here, and we're going to meet with the head of every major part of the Venezuelan economy in order to, do these investments. This seems extraordinarily premeditated. And I do want to point out something about Charles Myers. Charles Myers is, a major Democratic donor. Here he is in a post. I don't know exactly from when. Besides Buttigieg, Myers has had John Hickenlooper, the ex-governor of Colorado, and Jay Inslee, Washington's governor, drop by his office for what he calls policy lunches. He says the idea isn't to get them to go easy on Wall Street. What he really wants is to resist what he sees as the party's socialist tilt while fighting Trump. Quote, I don't feel embarrassed at all, unquote, says Myers, who is vice chairman of Evercore Inc. before he started Signum Global Advisors, which does policy research for finance firms. That is a pretty interesting thing, isn't it? Finish this.
As military. Mr. President, thank you. What did you last speak to Maduro about when you spoke? And is the
Well, I don't want to get into the conversations, but I did have conversations with him, and I said, you got to surrender. And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did, yeah.
You said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras who was convicted of many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are
also Charles Myers apparently was a major supporter for Andrew Cuomo. Interesting stuff going on here with Charles Myers. He seems to pop up a lot behind the scenes of a lot of politics.
Would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did.
Oh, just another interesting thing. Just throwing this out there about Charles Myers. Top Dem donor says it's wishful thinking that Biden will quit race despite appalling debate. Yeah, any notion that Biden is going to step aside now is wishful thinking. Wall Street veteran Charles Myers, also a top bundler for the 2024 campaign, told the Post. How interesting.
And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
You referenced boots on the ground earlier. Can you just sort of button this up? Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that country?
No, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil, because we have to have, we're sending our expertise in.
Because we have to have the oil. Like, oh my God, dude. We're going to have boots on the ground in Venezuela so we can loot their oil. That's literally what he's saying over and over and over again, because we got to have their oil. Got to have it. Can't do without it. Gotta have it.
So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground. And that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and people from outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela. And it goes also to the United States of America.
Dude, I just can't. What he's describing here is, well, the wealth will go to the people of Venezuela, but then they'll owe us for all of the investment that we did, and they'll have to then give the money that they got to us, and then we'll have the money. Like, he's just describing a conveyor belt to give of stealing, of looting. Very honest, if nothing else. I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's because his brain is mush.
America in the form of reimbursement for the damages caused us by that country. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. Do you have one? Yes, please. You were so nice before. I'm going to give you the final question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
Unless
President.
it's a bad question, in
It's
which
about
case
Putin.
I'll go one word. It's about who?
It's about Putin, if you want.
About Putin. Well, that's always nice to talk about Putin.
You had a phone call with him on Monday. Did he talk at all about Maduro? Did y'all talk about this?
No, we didn't.
And
We
then,
never spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this
I'm not
intelligence.
thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people. I thought that would be so. I settled 8 1/4 war. You know what the 1/4 was? Thailand and Cambodia. I did it again. They broke out, and I did it in about 5 hours, and I settled it. I'm giving myself 1/4, so I'm up to now 8 1/4. In other words, I settled the war, but then they broke out. They had a pretty bad breakout over the last 4 days. I got them to go back to peace. So I
8 1/4 wars.
only give 1/4. I thought the easiest one would be, one of the easier ones would be Russia, Ukraine. It's not. And they both have done some pretty bad things. And look, that's Biden's war. That's not my war. But I want to stop the lives. Did you see where last month, 30,000, it was 27,000 the month before. 30,000, mostly soldiers, were killed this last month. 30,000. I want to stop that. You know, I got NATO to pay 5% instead of the 2% that they weren't paying. They weren't paying 2, now they pay 5. And we send them a lot of munitions. We send them a lot of things, missiles and various other things, a lot. And they pay. The United States is not losing money. We're probably making money on that. It's the last thing I care about. I just want to stop all those people. We're losing 25, 30,000 human beings that come from 2 places that are very far away. But if I can stop, because it's something I've been pretty good at doing, deals, I guess. It's all a deal. Life is a big deal. But if I can stop that war and stop 30,000 young people, in addition to the fact that people are being killed in Kiev, people are being killed in other cities throughout, a much smaller number, but they're being killed, viciously killed. So I'm not happy about it. I thought that would be something that would get solved. We have Mr. Witkoff here. I think that we're making progress, but that's a war that should have never happened. If I were president, it would have never happened. Putin says it. Everybody says it.
Well, if Putin says it, it must be true. This baby brain dipshit.
If I were president, that would have never happened. But I inherited that war. That was Joe Biden Zelensky and Putin. I came into the situation.
It was Joe Biden, Zelensky, and Putin. And I'm just an innocent bystander here. There's nothing I could do. I said I would solve it day one, but there's nothing I can do, folks. There's just nothing I can do. I'm a helpless little defenseless baby who just kidnapped a global leader. And there's nothing I can do about this one, though. I'm super strong, but also I'm weak and delicate like a baby.
And it's a mess. And I will say this, I watched an operation last night that was so precise, that was so brilliant. I mean, it was incredible. If we had our people, like this general and our people involved, that war would not have gone on very long, that I can tell you.
Yes, it's true. If we went to war with Russia, that war would not be very long. That is true. That would not be a very long war, but not for the reasons he seems to think.
That war, to use an old term, that war has become a bloodbath, and we want it to get stopped. Thank you very much, everybody.
God, it's truly incredible to watch, and I wanted to throw this up here because, I mean, it's fascinating. Here is what the Situation Room looked like as these men watched the conflict unfold last night. Now, you might notice a few key details here, like the fact that they're very clearly just in Mar-a-Lago and they have sheets put up over rafters in order to make it look like they have a clandestine location. That you might notice the fact that they're sitting on chairs that appear to be spray painted gold. You might notice the fact that like Donald Trump is just kind of sitting over here by himself looking bored. Like he wants to ask Marco Rubio if there are games on his phone. Marco is looking like he actually understands the gravity of the situation and is trying to keep all of the shit from leaking out of his colon. You might notice the fact that Pete Hegseth is like hunched over the world's smallest laptop. And you might also notice that potentially the laptop screen here is being mirrored onto this like big TV. And it kind of just looks like someone's posting on Twitter. It's one of the most insane Situation Room pictures I've ever seen in my life. And you can see like the rest of the room behind the curtain here. Like, this is not a secure location. They're running one of the most dangerous operations to remove a world leader from power that the United States has undertaken in a long while. And they're doing it from like his goddamn dining room while looking at Twitter. This is insane. There's just no other word for it, really. And here is J.D. Vance in the aftermath of this attack. PSA for everyone saying this was illegal. Maduro has multiple indictments in the United States for narco-terrorism. You don't get to avoid justice for drug trafficking in the United States because you live in a palace in Caracas. And here's a billionaire, Jared Isaacman, who you might not have heard of before, because he was one of the good billionaires, saying, spot on, VP, because there are no good billionaires. And I don't know, does that mean if Iran charges Donald Trump with a crime, they can send like a spec ops team to the White House? Does that mean if like, I don't know, like, can China just abduct the leader of Taiwan? Like, where does it stop? And you all know that this doesn't go both ways. This isn't justice. This isn't equitable. This isn't fair. This is just a raw, unadulterated power being exercised on the global stage. And also, it is in fact illegal for the President of the United States to unilaterally send U.S. military into another country without consulting Congress, without getting authorization from Congress. This is an act of war. If we killed the head of a foreign nation and were like had a level of military power on par with them, they would try and fight us. This is an act of war. You think like the leader of Carthage could just walk into Rome and assassinate like the Roman like dictator? No, that without consequence. No. Now let's take a look here. What are the reactions within Venezuela about this? PBS actually had people on the ground asking.
Earlier this afternoon, I spoke to feature story news reporter Mary Trini Mina in Venezuela's capital, Caracas. Thank you so much for joining us. We are speaking a few hours before our show airs. It's been an extraordinary day in Venezuela today. What has it been like on the ground?
Well, Venezuelans woke up hearing loud sounds rumbling across the city. It was complex situations from early hours. It began at 1:50 local time. It lasted for about 45 minutes. I personally heard planes, airplanes, and these detonations that kept happening for about 45 minutes. It was a difficult situation, very complex, with a lack of information coming from the government of Nicolás Maduro. Later on, they released a statement saying that this was an aggression perpetrated by the U.S. And according to the Venezuelan government, the sole purpose of this kinetic strike it was to gain control of Venezuelan oil resources. This ended up with the extraction of the leader of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, and also his wife, Cilia Flores. Here in Caracas, there's been moments of quiet. Most people have decided to remain at home, considering today's events. And also, some people have decided to go to the streets, mostly the supporters of Nicolás Maduro. We need to remember that the Maduro government were bracing for a situation like this for many months now. And the former leader of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, told his supporters that in case he was not present, the people should go out to the streets. Well, we are witnessing like small gatherings in Caracas mostly, and the majority of Venezuelans remain at home waiting what is going to happen in the coming hours.
We have about 45 seconds left. President Trump today said that the U.S. is going to be running Venezuela. Is there any evidence on the ground that the United States is now in charge?
No, there is no evidence so far. The Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez appeared on television saying that she is running the country, that they are not happy with, of course, what happened, and they will not surrender. And they are calling this a kidnapping of the one and only legitimate president of Venezuela, that they will continue running the country. She appeared on television surrounded by members of the military forces and the main heads of the Maduro government, all loyals to Nicolás Maduro.
Mary Trina Mina with FSN. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So it sounds like mostly the reaction does not appear to be particularly happy, you know. I will say that that's not surprising. I would maybe go one step and say Venezuelan diaspora that is here in the United States is probably extraordinarily happy about Maduro being taken out of power. But I think that those are two very different groups. One actively living under Maduro and the other long gone from under Maduro's control. Maybe if the U.S. supports the vice president and the military, there won't be a civil war or insurgency. Well, I'm guessing that basically what the Trump plan is to keep the current government in place as long as the now president of Venezuela, as long as she's willing to play ball and do whatever some kind of special operations group tells her to do. And if she doesn't do that, then they'll kidnap her or kill her too. And continue until they get someone compliant. Is there a plan? No, there's not a plan. We just watched that entire press conference. Their plan boils down into basically, well, we did it, and we're gonna have a group of people running things. That's almost verbatim what he said. We don't know who that group is. I'm speculating that it might be a group of hedge fund investors that the Wall Street Journal is reporting on, already planning a trip to Venezuela in March. But we genuinely don't know. And other than U.S. oil companies are going to do whatever the fuck they want, there seems to be no plan. Yeah. This doesn't seem great at all for anyone involved. Now, again, I do want to say, what happens from here on out? Well, Maduro is being taken to a facility in New York City, the same holding facility that Sam Bankman-Fried was kept in. It has horrible human rights abuses that happen there, and the conditions are completely and utterly abysmal. They use it also as an ICE holding facility, and that's where he's going to be held throughout his trial, right? And the legal, again, to kind of reiterate the legal justification that they're going to try and use for this action, Mike Lee kind of shows the way that they want to take here. Essentially, let's see, got off the phone with Secretary Rubio. He informed me that Nicolas Maduro has been arrested by U.S. personnel to stand trial on criminal charges in the United States, and that the kinetic action we saw tonight was deployed to protect and defend those executing the arrest warrant. So again, their entire argument here is that they sent DEA agents into Caracas, Venezuela, and they had to protect the DEA agents, so they had to deploy 6,000 sailors and Marines and the U.S. Army and helicopters and 150 aircraft, and they had to kill some Venezuelan civilians and members of their military, and that was all necessary to execute the warrant, you see. That's going to be their argument, and genuinely, I'm not a lawyer. That doesn't feel like it's going to hold up in court, and if it doesn't, it could very well have some pretty profound effects on the case of prosecuting Maduro. So they're going to try and argue, as Mike Lee does here, action likely falls within the president's inherent authority under Article 2 of the Constitution to protect U.S. personnel from an actual or imminent attack. And I'm sorry, it cannot be that Article 2 allows the U.S. president to overstep Article 1 of his of the Constitution. That cannot be how this works. Because if it is, it effectively just allows the president to bypass Congress for any kind of military action. If all you have to do is send a cop in a DEA vest into another country, and that justifies sending, 100,000 troops along with them to keep them safe, no, that can't possibly be how that works in any kind of sane system. No. Lee is arguing that if any U.S. personnel, i.e. a federal agent, for example, needs to go into another country to do their job, a job given to them by the federal government, then that authorizes the president to send the military along to protect them. That it's just no, I don't think this holds up. So send in one guy with a badge and then 10,000 soldiers with tanks behind him. That's essentially what we did, right? That's essentially we sent something like 20 battleships, warships from the U.S. Navy, along with the world's largest aircraft carrier. We sent 150 aircraft. We sent unknown numbers of drones. We sent thousands of soldiers. Again, this is all extraordinarily illegal. Even by the Trump administration standards. And keep in mind, okay, that the Maduro indictment, right? Which we have here, is entirely contingent on him being the head of narco trafficking throughout all of Venezuela, which they're trying to basically pin like 200 tons of cocaine trafficked through the country onto him personally. Based on what? On some very tenuous claims. Yeah, narco terrorist organizations working in partnership with defendants. So they allege FARC, they allege ELN, they allege the Sinaloa cartel, they allege the Zetas, they allege Tren de Aragua, and yeah, I mean, like, it's some crazy shit. Let's see here. Nicolas Maduro, the defendant, like former President Chavez before him, participates in, perpetuates, and protects a culture of corruption in which powerful Venezuelan elites enrich themselves through drug trafficking and the protection of their partner drug traffickers. The profits of that illegal activity flow to corrupt rank-and-file civilian, military, and intelligence officials who operate in a patronage system run by those at the top, referred to as the Cartel de las Soles, or the Cartel of the Suns, a reference to the sun insignia affixed to the uniforms of high-ranking Venezuelan military officials. Venezuela sits in a geographically valuable location for drug traffickers with northern access to the Caribbean Sea via several large ports and western access to the mountainous regions of Colombia, where coca is grown and turned into the vast majority of the world's cocaine supply in jungle labs. Starting in 1999, Venezuela became a safe haven for drug traffickers willing to pay for protection and support corrupt Venezuelan civilian and military officials who operated outside the reach of Colombian law enforcement and armed forces bolstered by the United States anti-narcotics assistance. In that environment, cocaine trafficking flourished. Venezuelan officials and their family members, including Nicolas Maduro, the defendants partnered with narcotics traffickers and narco-terrorist groups who dispatched processed cocaine from Venezuela to the United States via transshipment points in the Caribbean and Central America, such as Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico. By in or about 2020, the State Department estimated that between 200 and 250 tons of cocaine were trafficked through Venezuela annually. The maritime shipments were shipped north from Venezuela's coastline using go-fast vessels, fishing boats, and container ships. Air shipments were often dispatched from clandestine airstrips, typically made of dirt or grass, and also formed commercial airports under the control of corrupt government and military officials. And they're alleging, well, he did the corruption, like he fostered the environment for all of this corruption and, indirectly profited and facilitated the growth of these groups. They provided, the defendant, along with members of his family and other corrupt officials, provided law enforcement cover and logistical support for the transport of cocaine through Venezuela, with knowledge of their drug trafficking partners, would move the cocaine north to the United States. Between 2006 and 2008, while acting as Venezuela's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maduro sold Venezuelan diplomatic passports to individuals that Maduro knew were drug traffickers in order to assist traffickers seeking to move drug proceeds from Mexico to Venezuela under diplomatic cover. When the drug traffickers needed to move drug proceeds from Mexico back to Venezuela, Maduro facilitated the movement of private planes under diplomatic cover to ensure the flights received no scrutiny from law enforcement or the military. 2007, Celia attended a meeting where she accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes to broker a meeting between a large-scale drug trafficker and the director of Venezuela's National Anti-Drug Office. The drug trafficker later arranged to pay a monthly bribe to Rivero Torres, in addition to approximately $100,000 for each flight that was transporting cocaine to ensure the flight's safe passage, portion of which was then paid to Flores de Maduro. Well, it'll be interesting to see all this attempt to play out in court and to see what kind of evidence they have. Because, boy, that is a long list of charges, and I'm not sure how much of this they can prove. Especially not with the caliber of lawyer the DOJ has at its disposal at this point. Who is going to be overseeing their case is going to be pretty important. And Interestingly enough, we already know which judge is going to be overseeing Maduro's case. And it is a judge appointed by Bill Clinton named Alvin Hellerstein. He's perhaps known for back in April here. From the bench, Judge Alvin Hellerstein indicates he'll be extending a TRO barring removals of Venezuelans detained in the Southern District of New York under the Alien Enemies Act. Detailing horrific conditions at CCOT, he partly cited the likelihood of irreparable harm. What way is that to treat a human being? So, Alvin Hellerstein seems like a pretty reasonable judge here. These people are being thrown out of the country because they have tattoos. So it'll be interesting to see how this judge receives this case. Do they want Maduro to make it to trial, or could he get Epstein? If he was going to get killed, he would have been killed by now, number one. And number two, I would say that the likelihood is that they're going to put pressure on him to confess in order to save his wife and son, who are also indicted, and his wife is in custody. It's unknown at this time whether or not they have his son in custody. If they have both, like, they'll definitely be like, yeah, we'll drop charges against your wife and son if you plead guilty. So we'll see. But the entire method of acquiring him, I mean, if he is to be granted rights and due process in this country, then like surely the method of detaining him is going to come under a lot of scrutiny in this case. And of course, it also depends on what happens, and like Donald Trump's plans for Venezuela hinge very much now on whether or not Congress can pull back war powers from Donald Trump. And that is going to be voted on in Congress as soon as they get back on Monday. So we're going to see kind of where that goes. Because if Congress does claw back Donald Trump's ability to do this, then the gun to the head of Venezuela is effectively removed. And at that point, like, what happens then? It may be a UN charter violation. I know that Venezuela has called an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. We'll see. I do want to say here that the amount of money that they're looking to extract from Venezuela is significant. Here is Maria Corina Machado, earlier last year, saying that her desire to privatize all of the nationalized companies in Venezuela would generate $1.7 trillion. And, we also have estimates of the oil field value in Venezuela as being up to like $17 trillion on its own. So when Donald Trump is talking about it being a very profitable endeavor, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about building the infrastructure and then reaping all of that money for himself and his rich crony friends. And I'm guessing if they are able to install their own government, they would love to just have a smorgasbord of privatization to make, again, all of his wealthy friends even wealthier. US has veto power, so what exactly can the UN do? I'm not entirely sure. I think it's just for Venezuela to plead its case and increase diplomatic pressure on the United States. But, we'll see. And that brings us finally, I just want to replay this part, because I was wondering, like, okay, who are they going to get to be in charge? If it's not Maria Corina Machado, like, she got thrown under the bus, I don't think it's Juan Guaido. Juan Guaido is like weirdly silent about all this, and Donald Trump is talking about this nebulous group. I literally think he's just going to send a bunch of hedge fund guys to like Banana Republic the entire thing, and we'll see if like that threat of force continues to exist past Monday. But it's not a good sign, and it's doubly not a good sign for all of the other imperial ambitions that the United States has been expressing under Donald Trump. Because while we've been talking quite a bit about Venezuela, justifiably so, this is unprecedented in our history, he's also saying a lot of crazy shit about Greenland again. Danish PM strikes defiant tone on Greenland in New Year's speech as Trump rehashes annexation plans. We will stand firm. Never before have we increased our military strength so significantly so quickly, said Mette Frederiksen in a televised address to her nation. Her theme was echoed by King Frederick X on his annual Christmas Eve address, who highlighted new military training programs and praised Greenlanders' strength and pride in a turbulent time. And, yeah, it's because of this. Greenland outraged after Trump appoints envoy to make country part of the United States. But yeah, they appointed the governor of Louisiana to be the guy who's in charge of trying to get Greenland to want to be annexed by the United States, despite the fact that at least in Louisiana, governors can't hold multiple positions in the government, but I guess laws just don't matter to conservatives. You know, oddly enough, the Law and Order Party doesn't give a single shit about law or order. But I don't want Greenland? Yeah, but you don't understand. Peter Thiel wants Greenland. You don't understand. Like, these billionaire fucks, these network state, like, nut jobs, want their own little fiefdoms. And it wouldn't surprise me if in that group of, like, hedge fund guys that go down to Venezuela, if it even gets to that point, that it wouldn't surprise me if some of them were, like, network state billionaire types. You know, your Balaji Srinivasans, your Peter Thiels, your Jared Isaacsons. Like, these people have been salivating to get, like, their own little, like, piece of the world and then run it as little dictators. What they want, they've always wanted to be little dictators.
Go figure that the party of law and order is full of special victims.
Indeed. Enough to make up an entire unit, in fact. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. I do appreciate you quite a bit. Yeah, they want to make their own little Randian utopias. They want to make their own little raptures. And, like, guys, every single one of these projects has been just an absolute clusterfuck, because it turns out fascism is a bad idea even if you have a lot of money at the start of it. We have to do another deep dive into Balaji Srinivasan at some point, because it's becoming too on the nose. Like, we need to talk about it more, I guess, and more in depth. They know global warming is going to make Greenland important. I mean, that's part of it, but also because there's not a lot of people there and they can boss them around if they have a lot of money. You know? What's to stop Trump from using the military to stay in power? The military, for 1, and us for 2, and Congress and the courts for 3 and 4. Ideally, we don't have to do that, but part of the reason the No Kings protests have been a big deal is that it shows and demonstrates the amount of people power we have aligned with us, and the fact that it has grown, the fact that we are continuing to mobilize, the fact that Donald Trump is continuing to get less popular. Those are all pretty important things when it comes to Donald Trump not being able to claw into power. Additionally, we just watched him try and speak for like an hour, and he's like slurring his words, and he ain't doing so hot. I'm pretty convinced that he has some pretty serious heart disease on top of some minor strokes over the past year, and I don't think he's physically doing well. So my prediction for the year is that he's not gonna make it, just of natural causes. But that's just me. And I think that once Trump is gone, like if Trump does kick the bucket early, I don't think JD Vance can like muster the same kind of widespread support. I just don't think I just don't think he can do it. For again, one pretty important reason that it always bears repeating.
Oh look! It's Couch Fucker! You gonna fuck a couch, buddy?
Troops out of our street! Right here! Do not go past the couch!
Troops out of Ohio! Pussy boy! Pussy boy! Pussy boy! Pussy boy! Pussy boy! You go fuck the couch! Go fuck the couch, JD Vance! Go fuck the couch!
Look, I know it's not it's not like a high information argument here, but the fact that when I think of JD Vance, I think of gonna fuck a couch, buddy. It just kind of shows that this stuff sticks to JD Vance in a way it just doesn't stick to Donald Trump. Like, the man can't even, like, riff about Thanksgiving with the troops. Like, he yelled at a bunch of troops during Thanksgiving about how they were all lying about liking turkey. He, like, he can't order donuts like an actual human being. Like, he goes, so you've been here long? But just give me whatever anyone else would get. Give me what a normal human would get. Like, he is the most rizless individual you could possibly imagine. And you can't just take Donald Trump out of the socket and then place JD Vance into the socket and have the cult of personality transfer. It just doesn't work that way. It's why Republicans during off-year elections have gotten their asses beat every single time. Because, like, Trump isn't on the ticket. Without Trump on the ticket, they're fucked. And they know it. It's why all of them still cling to him and his golden teat. So I just think, I don't think that Trump has the juice to do, January 6th to Electric Boogaloo. But, he does have the ability to project power, apparently. And that is exactly what he did yesterday. I think that brings us to the end of where we're at. That was a whole 4 hours of analysis, and I hope you guys got something out of that. And I guess this is the part where I say, if you did get something out of that, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, doing the things that help the channel grow. We hit over 20K last month, and my hope for this year is we hit 40K by the end of the year, and if we do better than that, even all the better. Happy New Year, everyone. What a day to start out doing politics again. And also, folks, join your local Dems, join your local DSA, because the only way we get out of this is by organizing together. It is not enough to simply know the correct political stances. It is not enough to simply show up and vote, every 2 or 4 years. We need to actually organize, and we need to actually go to the meetings. We need to actually show up. The more of us that do that, the better off we will all be, and the closer we will get to that world that we all deserve, where we are safe, where we are fed, where we are housed, and where we can do that which we would, like do the things we want to do to live a happy and healthy life. The pursue happiness bit of the promise of this nation. And all that being said, last but certainly not least, please check out ImageneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. And we tested it with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. People love it. The designs are great. There should be new designs coming in the not so distant future at this point. New colors as well. So please check out ImageneOlivia.com. Should be a link down in the description. And yeah, I'm wearing it right now. It's super comfortable. With all that being said, let's keep on going.
Riverboat deck is going to town. All the viewers gather round.
Twitch and YouTube and Swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.